right, so I'm going to teach you guys how to increase your business with podcast. And we just to give you guys a brief history, we launched our podcast, the HyperFast Agent Show, a little over a year ago, and we're getting 5,000 to 6,000 downloads typically right now, and it took some time. All right, it took time to do that, and I think there's a huge opportunity for real estate agents. Now, our podcast is geared towards agents, investors, and kind of at the national level. What we're going to talk about today is a little bit different. It's about starting a podcast that will get you buyer and seller clients, raise your branding, your reputation in your own market. So if you guys are interested in doing that, please put in the chat window that you're interested, that you want to learn how to do a podcast. If you are doing a local podcast already, please write in the comments as well the name of your podcast and what kind of stuff you're putting out on that channel. So the first thing is it's not really as hard as you might think it is. I know it might be intimidating, but it really isn't that hard to get started. And if you're not seeing the chat, try hitting the refresh button. I know a couple people said they can. I'm seeing the chat right now, so fire your questions away. I'm seeing them all, but why do it? All right, why do it? So that's what we're addressing on this slide. I think there is the chance, if you do it properly, and it kind of ties in a little bit to what's it ties in a little bit to what Christina Daves talked about with the PR strategy. Like, this is a way to get your own PR and to really make a preeminence play. So preeminence is the strategy of trying to look like an expert. And Jay Abraham, I first learned this strategy from a business mastery, Tony Robbins, like 5 or 6 years ago. Is this strategy of trying to be preeminent, trying to be an expert in your field. And if you do a local podcast, you're going to have very, very few competitors, especially if it has a real estate focus. And it's gonna be your own media channel, your own way of elevating your status, your authoritativeness on the subject. And I would say the 2019, 2020, we saw this twist come out on this Jay Abraham strategy, and because he almost comes at it from just this cold, higher up than everyone kind of mentality. And I think there's an opportunity, if you do it right, especially with a podcast, to be the friendly expert. Right? You want to be known as the friendly expert. And I think a podcast show is a great way to do that. I think it's also a great way to reach more prospects. So you're going to be able to get in front of more people. And then lastly, you will be able to increase your time in front of your current prospects and clients. So they're going to see you more often, hear you more often. All right, so the steps, how to do it. I've got 4 steps here, and it's really that simple. All right, so first thing is create a plan and outline. So we'll go into more detail on that. Next thing is to get the equipment you need. You need some equipment. It doesn't have to be super fancy though. Start recording and editing. And then finally, you have to distribute it and promote it, all right? So how do you plan it? Well, first, you need to decide what topics you will cover. And I see a question on equipment. We will get to that after the planning, so we'll go over all of that. First, though, this topic here, planning, will affect what type of equipment you might need. All right, so if and you'll see that in a second, but what topics are you going to cover? So I think I think most of the opportunity here for people is going to be in being the digital mayor of your town. So this is the Gary V strategy that we implemented a couple of years ago on our YouTube channel. So if you watch the Keri Shull team YouTube channel, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But we went out and we took a videographer and one of our agents, or us sometimes, and we would cover news stories in our town that were relevant. So when bird scooters first came to our town, we talked about that. When Amazon came, we talked about that. We would go out and interview new restaurants that opened. People love that. The bar owners, the restaurant owners love that. They would promote it. So like right now, you could interview, how businesses are adapting to changes. What restaurants are that maybe didn't do takeout now are crushing it with takeout, or what businesses that were in-home or have switched to in-home kind of services. So there's all sorts of local businesses in your market that are changing, adapting, and those would all be great stories. You can also focus on real estate news, or you could do one that focuses on documenting the process of, buying a home, looking for a home. There's tons of things you can do there. You can interview actual clients on it. So tons of potential. What will the style be? Is it going to be interview? Are you going to be doing them in person, which I would lean towards doing in person as much as you can. But there might be a reason why you have to do it remote, especially now. And then the other option is it can just be you teaching, right? You could kind of go with the monologue style. So lots of different ways to do the style. The style will dictate what kind of equipment you need. So if you're going to be mostly remote, you can get away with a microphone like this. I use the Blue Snowball or the Blue Yeti. And then I've got a Logitech webcam. I use an external webcam for my Zoom and webinar. I think headphones are a good idea if you're doing interviews too. It reduces the feedback. So really, it's like three things if you're doing it remote, and then maybe a good light, a good light kit. And I see a question here. Another real estate agent. Focused on completely on the community, not mentioning real estate. Yes, that is definitely an option. So you could, if you go this local news topic, you can mention that you're a real estate agent or do an elegant mention of it. And that's really what we did on our Keri Shull team YouTube channel. Was it was, hi, I'm a member of the Keri Shull team, and I'm here today to interview this restaurant owner, right, or cover this news. So you definitely can do it that style, that way. It definitely works. So I will, and I see another question here on repeating the equipment. We will actually put a link in the chat or somewhere, or send it out to you guys. But we've got a blog article that covers some of my favorite equipment as well. So we'll make sure you guys have that. Another thing you could do, by the way, is you could cover local stuff like every other episode, or come up with a mix, right? And then half the episodes could be on the process. So you could do a mix, right? You could do like 20 minutes, 30-minute interview with a local business leader, and then come back on your next episode and do 10 minutes on a real estate success story or a challenge or a problem, right? So there's all sorts of different ways that you could do it. And Jose, I would say you can stray as far away as you want from real estate. I think doing your own podcast is a chance to really be yourself. Talk about stuff that you are interested in. So don't feel like you have to follow a certain formula or it has to be tangentially related to real estate. You got a lot of options when it comes to that. Yes, we'll get to the question from Ray about consistent times and intervals, but you should be consistent once you start. last question to decide on planning is what platforms are you going to do? You know, and you've kind of got two choices. You can do audio only, or you can do a video version and put it on YouTube as well and other places. So I think if you can, it makes sense to do it on video as well. It's not much extra work from just recording only. So the equipment, physical equipment, you need the microphone, a lavalier potentially, a shotgun mic potentially, a sound recorder potentially, webcam, camera, I spelled it wrong, sorry about that, and a ring light. And you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on this stuff. You can, but you don't need to. Recording and editing software. So for your remote stuff, you typically would use Zoom, Skype, editing, Audacity, GarageBand, Adobe are all different options, and we've got more on that in the blog article that I think we have posted. Audacity is awesome. I see that comment. I think it is free as well. I can't remember if it's still free or not, or some version of it is. So recording and editing. Decide on your schedule, your guests, your topic, and plan out at least a quarter in advance, right? Contact your guests, schedule them well in advance, and I would record and edit at least 4 works of a cue before releasing. So you never want to be crunched too much on time, and I always want to have at least 4 weeks, if not more, of backlog. Right. So if I interview you today for my podcast, I don't typically want that going out for like 4 weeks. Or I should say, I don't want to have to put it out, in the preceding 4 weeks. Now, if it's a very relevant and timely topic, like right now with coronavirus, I might, interview people and put it out right now. If it's really relevant to what's going on, because things are changing at a much quicker pace. But the reason why I don't want to have to put it out right now, right? If I don't have this backlog or this queue, I might be forced to either miss it, rush it, not make it as good. So I want to have a little bit of a queue, a little bit of a backlog before I start releasing. Okay. And you want to make sure you make micro content for each episode to promote. And a good resource on this is to just Google Gary V content pyramid. This is exactly where I learned it. I mean, he sat down and pointed me to this exact article. He's got it on LinkedIn and as a blog. It's Gary V content pyramid. But you want micro content for each episode to help promote it. All right. So you're going to need 15-second snippets, some snippets that are 30 to 60 seconds, and some that are over a minute. Okay. So those 15-second ones, that is going to be short stuff, typically in vertical style, 9:16 ratio. You will put that on Instagram story. You'll put that potentially on TikTok if you're on that platform, which you should be if you're not. The 30 to 60-second clips, I'm going to use those for Facebook posts, my Instagram feed potentially, LinkedIn posts, Twitter posts. Those will typically be the wider format, 4:3 or 16:9. And then over a minute, those can be on the same platforms I just mentioned as well. Over a minute is also good if you want it on IGTV. All right, so the purpose of this micro content, this shorter content, you're going to want like 2 or 3 for each episode. You'll also want some graphics of them, right? So the video snippets are good, but you might want some graphics to promote it, and you might want some audiograms as well. So just think about that when you're doing your recording, your editing, and you'll see in a minute when we talk about distributing and promotion why we want this micro content. All right, so to distribute, you're gonna want to use there's several options for distribution and hosting, And this is the platform that actually holds the podcast audio and sends it out to the pod catchers, which is where people access it, right? So there's Anchor, Libsyn, Simplecast, Shout Engine. I think there's one called Overcast as well. Podbeam. There's a lot more than I have listed. Bluehost. I see a comment on that. So tons of different places to use for distributing and hosting it. And then that platform is what will send it to iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Google Play, and then YouTube. If you're doing the video version, that's going to be its own upload, and obviously it's hosted and distributed and consumed all on that one platform. Promotion. All right. So promotion, you're going to want to use a multi-channel strategy. So we talked a little bit about when you're recording and editing the micro content, and some of that will be short form. Some of that's going to be very, very short stuff that you'll see on Facebook, on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram stories and feeds, TikTok. It can be text messages. Some of it will be long form promotion. So you can transcribe your blogs and make them into, or transcribe your podcast and make them into blogs, LinkedIn articles. If you're filming the podcast, obviously you can put it on YouTube. You can reformat it for IGTV and put large portions of it as well. There you can put them out in email releases. So you want all of these different platforms to promote your content, because you're putting time into making these, recording them, editing. So you want to use all of these shorter platforms to get people in there. And if you think about the life cycle of different social media, it is a very, very short window on most platforms, right? Like your tweets, your Instagram, your Facebook posts, those don't last more than a day. Your long form stuff though, like your blogs, your LinkedIn articles, and YouTube, that stays up for a longer time. Like that stays, pops up in searches a lot more. People see it a lot more. So you're going to want multiple posts on these short-term posts anyway to point people back to your podcast, back toward your YouTube channel. You cannot overdo the short form post. So if you feel like you're over posting, just realize that nobody who makes it big on social media has ever said don't over post, and use that short form micro content to get people back to the blogs. I think you should have a promotion strategy for each episode. You should have an evergreen type of promotion, like one that you can just repeat. That's just the highlight reels, or kind of like a sizzle reel of your podcast or YouTube. And then you want to make sure you get your guests and your partners to promote as well. My slide is now stuck. Oh, here we go. All right, so other key points. Be consistent. All right, we talked about the schedule. Once you decide on a schedule, if you're doing 1 week, 2 a week, 3 a week, like stick to it. Stick to the promotion schedule. Keep doing the interviews. Keep doing the stories. Be consistent. You want to measure results, but give it time. Like it takes a while to gain traction, and don't expect to do this and have like thousands of downloads and views month one, and tons of new clients coming from it. If that's what you're expecting, you're just your expectations are a little too high. So measure the results, but give it time. It's not going to happen overnight. Make sure you have fun with this. I think Jose was asking earlier about, how far can you stray off of real estate? And there really should not be rules for this. This is your chance to have fun, be creative, and be yourself. So I will open it up to any questions now. We got a few minutes before the next topics. You can ask me anything you want about starting a podcast, YouTube, anything. And I am not sure, is the chat still working or did it freeze on me? All right, looks like chat is still good. It feels overwhelming. It doesn't really have to be, Liz. Don't, it should be something that's fun and that you're interested in doing. And if it feels that way, my biggest piece of advice for anything really that feels overwhelming is to break it down into chunks. Okay, so like I said on the slides, like come up with your plan first, like what topics you want to cover. Come up with a schedule, come up with a style, right? Get the right equipment and go out and do it and give yourself, I always say like start now and kind of figure out the problems, challenges along the way. And I always find it, like when we started our podcast, I found it helped to A, have a deadline, and B, to make sure you recorded the first 4 or 5 episodes before you launched. Most successful podcast ever. I think our top ones that we've had, the Gary V one was pretty big. Grant Cardone was pretty big. And the Ryan Serhantz was pretty big. Yeah, we can talk about Craigslist too in a little bit. Sounds complicated, right? Getting that comment from more than a few people. It's really not. And everything you do that's new that you haven't done before is going to be a challenge at first because it's new, right? And the growth, the magic in life happens when you push outside of what is your comfortable zone. So I would say get comfortable being uncomfortable. And yes, the first time you do an interview or go to someone to do a story, it might sound complicated, right? It might feel challenging or feel uncomfortable. And the first time you do it, it's not going to be as good as the 10th time you do one, and certainly not the 100th time. And you just have to be comfortable with it not being perfect at first, right? If you wait till you think you can make it perfect, you'll never get started. So I got a question that the value of this between versus YouTube. I would do both. You're sort of competing a little bit, but again, I would record them with video and put them on YouTube as well. It's just not a ton of extra work to do both. And another question: if you got people, business owners flaking on you, then I would make sure you're communicating the value that you're hoping to bring them, the value that this can bring them in terms of new businesses. Get it scheduled. Don't, like, send them out a calendar invite, send them out a reminder, like just the way that hopefully you're treating like a new buyer lead or new seller lead. And like, keep trying. If 1 or 2 or 3 or even 10 flake on you, just move to the next one. And I agree, Ed. If you don't have video editing capacity or desire, or don't want to outsource that, then potentially you may want to start with audio only. That's fine. And there are different people out there that can help you with the editing and distribution of audio only and on video. Have I ever run out of ideas? No, not really. There's so many people that you can interview. Right. So I just for my show, I keep looking for people to interview. And even if you're in a small town, like, there's never going to be a shortage of local businesses to cover, local news to cover. Do we get more views or listens from video or audio? We get more audio downloads. So we're getting more people downloading on Audible and or not Audible, iTunes and SoundCloud and all those. We do not edit our own. Those platforms I mentioned earlier, Audacity, um, being like the easiest one I think to get started is a great one if you're going to be editing them on your own. And I think we use right now we're using Podbeam, I believe, for the anchor for the distribution and hosting. And yeah, I think if it's audio only, you're using the some of those basic apps. I don't think it's as difficult, as intimidating as people may seem. And I do want to circle back. Someone asked about Craigslist from my book. We still run Craigslist ads. I got a lot of buyers and sellers actually off Craigslist when I started out almost 9 years ago now. So Craigslist still really works, and you can use that platform to get sellers. You can use it to get buyers. You can use it to search for people trying to sell their homes on their own. You can use it to search for off markets. I think Keri, mentioned it probably in the off marketplace. So Craigslist is a great platform. Question from Jose: video and voice recording, are they done separately? No, we do. If we're doing something on video, we just take the audio, we strip it out of the video, right? So you can separate it in editing. Question: is blogging antiquated compared to podcasting and YouTube? And my answer to that would be, I don't think so. I think some people prefer to consume by reading. Some people prefer to consume by listening, and some prefer video. And you can, if you're going to the trouble of doing a podcast and a YouTube, you might as well then the service. I think Rev is an option, and there's a couple other ones where they strip they turn the audio into a transcript, and then you can turn that into a blog. So I think if you're going to do the podcast and the YouTube, you should definitely also do a blog version of it. And a lot of that can kind of be done for you through some of these transcription services. OtterBox is another one, I believe. I think, or no, Otter is an app that can do it, the transcription. So I don't know if one is better or worse. And I think with commuting going away, like people are working at homes now. Even though podcast and YouTube is kind of the newer, sexier thing compared to blogs, with people's commutes going away, you might see more blog consumption and more and a little bit less on podcast, if anything. So, if I had to pick and do one, I would probably pick the podcast and YouTube over blogging, but I don't think it's mutually exclusive, and they can help each other. Like you can mention your blog in your podcast in your YouTube, right? And you can do the same with your blog. These things can all work together, and you can do it all. Key is just get started. You're gonna screw it up the first time. You might be stressed out, but the key to growing and learning and being a better person tomorrow than you were today is to be comfortable with those uncomfortable periods of time, which is where the growth and learning occurs. So
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the HyperFast Show. Subscribe to us if you want to make sure you get the latest and greatest HyperFast shows. And remember, we love reviews. Reviews help us bring better and better guests and improve our shows. So give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see more, click right here. And if you want 100 real estate tips from my best-selling book, click right here to download them instantly. And if you're new to this channel, click below to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out. And leave some comments about what you think on the videos.